Hello and welcome to the Band in a Box 2011 for Mac New Features and New Realtracs video. In this video we're going to take a look at some of the great new features in Band in a Box 2011, and we'll also be looking at some of the fantastic new styles in Realtracs sets 102 through 121. Right now you're hearing a hot gypsy jazz band with acoustic bass, 2 acoustic guitars, drums, and we have soloists changing every part marker, 2 distinctly different guitar soloists, and a hot fiddle. This Soloist Medley is a new feature that we'll look into more closely later in the video. Everything you're hearing was created in Band in a Box by simply entering these chords into the chord sheet, picking the styles, and pressing play. The whole thing took less than 2 minutes to make. Even the soloist parts were generated based on the chords, and they'd play over any chords you'd care to enter. And despite this, it's all still real recordings of real musicians. One of the most exciting new features in Band in a Box 2011 is that there are vast improvements to all Realtracs, so that they sound more natural over a much wider range of tempos. Check it out when I speed things up from 220 beats per minute to, say, 270. Or even 300. Or 320. And the stretching quality is amazing, even at 100 beats per minute faster than the original. And you can slow it down too. Check it out at 205 beats per minute. Here we have some great new soloist sets from Nashville guitar legend Brent Mason, including a set of rock soloists and a set of country soloists. This is the medium rock groove. And here's a tasty rock ballad. I'll use this demo to show off the new mixer window in Band in a Box. This allows you to quickly set volumes, panning, reverb, tone, and patches. You can leave it in this small mode, or you can enlarge it, with the benefit being that the Realtracs and patch names now become visible. This mixer window floats on top of the current window, so you can place it wherever it's convenient to make quick and easy adjustments to your track settings. For example, if I want the soloist to be a bit louder, have a bit more reverb, and take a little bit of the top end off, it's easy to do. Here are some more Brent Mason soloists from the country set. We have some great new jazz sets, including Vibes Comping and Soloing by Vibes master Steve Nelson. Here's some of his jazz swing comping. And here's some bossa soloing. We have a whole new set of piano comping and soloing by New York jazz great Mike LeDunn. We have a whole set of Celtic jigs and reels. As with all our styles, new or old, the stretching has improved immensely, as you can hear when I speed this up. We have two new sets of praise and worship styles, each with a full band of electric bass, multiple rhythm electric guitars, piano, synth pads, and soloists like the one you're hearing here. And we have two new sets of reggae, also full bands with bass, guitar, piano, B3 organ, and drums. In addition to the improved stretching, the mixer window, and the Soloist Medleys, some of the great new features in Band in a Box 2011 include the ability to change reel styles mid-song, there's a new scales wizard, there's the ability to regenerate a portion of a Realtracs solo on the soloist track, and lots more. Let's take a closer look at some of these features now. We listened earlier to the smokin' fast Gypsy Jazz Swing, and there's also a set of Gypsy Jazz Ballads, which we're listening to right now. We'll use these to demonstrate how the stretching has improved from Band in a Box 2010. Band in a Box 2011 now uses Elastique Pro version 2 time stretching engine by Z-Plane Development. These improvements are built in, so there's nothing you need to do to get them working. Your existing songs will just sound better over a much wider range of tempos. I'll use the John guitar from this band to demonstrate by stretching the audio down from 110 to 95. Now I'll solo the John rhythm guitar. You can hear that it sounds very natural, as if he'd played it at 95 beats per minute. Let's go down even a bit more to 90. Now for comparison's sake, I'll switch over to Band in a Box 2010 for a moment. I'll again solo the John rhythm guitar and bring it down to 90. You can hear that it's very warbly and not very natural sounding. Let's go back to Band in a Box 2011 to compare once more. And the sound really speaks for itself. Another benefit of Elastique is that in previous versions, we needed to include transposed versions of all of our files. But with Elastique, Band in a Box is able to do that on the fly. This has enabled us to make the size of the Realtracs much smaller, so that they now only take up 30% of the space that they used to. Here again is the fast gypsy jazz style that we heard at the beginning. Traditional gypsy jazz is typically played without drums, but many modern incarnations of gypsy jazz bands use a stripped-down kit as part of the ensemble. So we've included drums in both of these sets with real styles that load them or leave them out. The choice is, as is always the case with Band in a Box, up to you. At the beginning of the video, we saw a feature called the Soloist Medley, where the Realtracs styles are made to switch instruments throughout the song. We'll now show you how to do this by putting a Soloist Medley on the soloist track here. We can see the list of currently available medleys here, and I'll filter the list to show medleys close to 220 beats per minute. And this one looks like it's the perfect match, switching from guitar to fiddle, and then to the alternate guitar soloist, every 8 bars. And it switches from one soloist to the other every 8 bars. We'll learn how to make your own custom medleys later in the video. With this medley track that we just made, I'm going to show you the drag and drop features in Band in a Box. I'll take the soloist track and drag it to this drop area. This prepares an audio file, and when it's ready, the color changes from blue to green. I can then drag that into the Finder or into another sequencer such as GarageBand, which I have open here. And we can see and hear that the track is now present in GarageBand. Here is a demo from our Pop Calypso Realtracs set. This features new bass, drums played with brushes, accordion, and 2 acoustic guitars, standard tuning and high-strung or Nashville tuning. The set also includes electric guitar and other drum variations which are not heard here. While this is playing, I'm going to show you some of the many new features in the Style Picker dialog. For those of you with bigger monitors, you'll first off notice that the dialog displays wider. There are new columns added. First of all, a column that shows the number of instruments. If there are real styles where you don't have the Realtracs styles required, there will be an NA in this column. And if there is a real style substitution available for a MIDI style, there will be a sub in this column. We'll look more at those substitutions later in the video. Many people will find the new filter extremely useful. This allows you to narrow down the list of displayed styles so you can find exactly what you're looking for. You can narrow the list using any combination of these criteria, from 8ths or 16ths based, swing or even. You can pick a tempo and the list will be narrowed to styles where the entered tempo falls within their range. This button would set it to the tempo of your currently loaded song. You can set the number of instruments in the style or pick a genre. I'll pick jazz here. You can narrow the list to only show styles that contain certain instruments, Realtracs or Real Drums artists, whether or not the feel matches your currently loaded song. You can choose to display styles with MIDI, Realtracs, or a combination of both, or narrow it to certain style sets. Right now I'd like to check out styles that feature jazz vibes great Steve Nelson. And you can see that these 4 styles contain Realtracs styles with Steve Nelson's playing. As I click on each one, you can see a new auto-generated style memo that lists the names of all the instruments, number of instruments, Realtracs or Real Drums used. It would also show you if you don't have the required Realtracs installed. This one, you can see, contains a Vibes Soloist, whereas this one is just vibes comping, and that's the style I'd like to use right now. A new feature is the Web Demo button. This will connect to the internet and play a demo of the currently selected style without loading the song into Band in a Box, so you won't lose your current song or the work you've done on it. Right now I would like to load the Band in a Box song demo, so I'll press this button. And you can see that this one has various options. These styles cover a wide tempo range, with different styles recorded at different tempos that automatically swap in. So you can pick the particular demo here, and I'll pick the 60 beats per minute demo. Now I'd like to add a tenor sax solo to this style. So I'll go into the Realtracs picker for the soloist track and filter by tenor sax. And I'll remove the check that shows if tempo is out of range, because I want a solo that will work well at this tempo. But we can see that it's left behind this 140 beats per minute tenor sax. That's because this is a new specially designed double time soloist. In the past, users could set double time themselves for any Realtracs here, but new with Band in a Box 2011 is the ability to make specially designed double time styles so they appear right in the list. And in the tempo column, it shows as 70 beats per minute since it's double time, which is why the filter allowed it. And you can hear that this 140 beat per minute soloist has been interpreted as double time at 70 beats per minute and has then been stretched down the short distance of 70 to 60, which is the tempo our song is set at, and as we've heard, that shorter stretch is easily handled by Elastique. I'll remove the soloist to show you some other features. And as I mentioned, similar Realtracs styles to these were recorded at multiple tempos. So we can see that if I stop, change the tempo to 140, and press play again, we can see and hear that rather than trying to stretch up from 60 beats per minute, it's selected the more appropriate tempo of the different Realtracs instruments. We looked earlier at the Soloist Medleys that are included with Band in a Box 2011, and will now show you how you can create your own on the fly. First, pick a Realtracs style to start with. I'll pick a jazz swing trumpet. I'll then press the medley button in the top right area of the screen. I want the second instrument to be that same tenor sax we heard earlier, but the regular version, not the double time version, since we now are actually at 140 beats per minute. I then want it to be silent so I could practice soloing a little bit myself there. I then want guitar, electric, soloist, and I want it to change instruments every 4 bars. And it starts with that trumpet. Then the tenor sax. Then if I had my instrument with me, I could blow over the changes here. And here's that guitar. There's also a new set of piano playing by New York pianist Mike LeDunn. This set includes both soloists and comping styles, and here we're listening to some jazz swing comping at 110 beats per minute. This is a good style to show you a new feature called the Scales Wizard. When students are practicing jazz tunes, it's helpful to see the scales that are used for each chord. The Scale Wizard allows you to easily generate these scales, which appear as notation on the soloist track. Options include instrument range, patch selection, jazzy mode, and diatonic mode. Let's check out some scales when we press OK. There's also an option in the Soloist menu to generate scales on all songs when you press play. Great for a day's worth of practicing. I'm going to load a MIDI style now, partly to show you a new feature, and partly to remind you how far we've come since the days of MIDI-only styles. Earlier I showed you this new column for real style substitutions in the style picker. Now you see, as I loaded the song demo for this style, it displayed this message. This indicates that for this MIDI-only style, there is another better real style option available. Let's play a little bit of the MIDI style first. Now, because it showed us that message, I know that I can press the Realtracs button, and there will be an option waiting for me here to substitute a better real style. And as you can hear, the groove just got real. Realtracs set 107 medium Pop Waltz contains 9 new even eighths waltz Realtracs styles, as well as a brand new real drum style to go along with them. We're listening to 5 of these styles right now in this demo. Now, these were recorded as waltzes at 120 beats per minute, but another way to look at them is to consider that to be a very slow 12/8 at 40 beats per minute. We now have a feature called triple time that lets you treat these styles that way. I'm going to load the demo for a 12/8 style with electric bass and pedal steel Realtracs, with the other instruments being MIDI. And I'll replace those MIDI tracks with Realtracs. I'll filter this list to show those Pop Waltz styles. And I think I'll put an actual piano on the piano track. And I'll make sure I select triple time, which means Band in a Box will treat this as 40 beats per minute rather than 120. And I'll put electric guitar on the strings track and do the same for that. And let's see how that sounds. I'll solo the drums and piano. So you see, Band in a Box treated the style as 40 beats per minute and then stretched that up to 65. A new feature in Band in a Box 2011 is the ability to change real styles at any bar using the bar settings dialog. I've got the Vibes Bossa comping style loaded right now, but what if I wanted it to switch to swing at bar 9? I'll just right-click on bar 9 to go into the bar settings dialog. Now I'll press the Style button to load a new style. You've been able to do this in the past, but the Realtracs in your song wouldn't have changed. I'll pick Jazz Vibe. Then I'll go back into the bar settings dialog at bar 17 to go back to the bossa groove. And let's check that out. And we now have some cool swing at bar 9. Using the same bar settings dialog, you can also now change individual Realtracs instruments. Right now we're listening to some pop uplift styles from one of our new praise and worship sets. I'll enter the Realtracs picker and we'll see what styles are loaded. First I'll filter by uplift. Now in this reel style we've got electric bass, piano, 2 different electric guitars. Now you'll notice that there are some other uplift styles that aren't in this particular reel style, such as the guitar soloist and the synth pad. Now if I wanted to add the synth pad to the mix, I could put it on the melody or soloist track. But if you want to keep those tracks free for an actual melody or soloist, there's a new alternate way of doing it. We looked earlier at the Soloist Medley feature, and there's another way that can be used. I'll select the piano track and then press the medley button. And I'll put the synth in the second slot. And I'll click Play All simultaneously. Now I'll generate this track. And if I solo the piano track, you can hear that both instruments are there. Since the medley feature allows for 10 slots, and there are 7 instruments, the theoretical limit would be 7 tracks times 10 per track, which would be 70 Realtracs instruments playing at the same time. I'm now going to add a guitar solo to this song by pressing the Soloist button. You may notice a few changes to this dialog. There is now a Show All button here, and if I press Realtracs, you'll see that the Realtracs now list their full names rather than just an abbreviated version, which was not always easy to tell what it was. I'm going to scroll down to 1273, the Pop Uplift Soloist. I want it to solo through the whole song, and I'll press OK. Now a new feature is that when using the soloist, you can now regenerate small portions of a solo. Either the same soloist if you just want a small part of it changed, or you can even use a completely different soloist. I'll pick the medium rock Brent Mason soloist, number 1169. And I'll press the custom button to only generate a small portion of the song, starting at bar 9 for 8 bars. And we'll see what happens when a different guitarist takes over at bar 9. We hope you enjoy all the great new features in Band-in-a-Box 2011 for Mac, and all the fantastic new styles in Realtracs sets 102 through 121.